Welcome back to another episode of Built in Ohio. We have a guest today that I'm really excited to dive into. It's a topic that is so interesting and passionate for all of us at Ohio X, and I know a bunch of others, and that's around tech workforce, building the Silicon Heartland. It's only possible if we have the people to do it. And as we're going to talk about today with our guest, we're going to examine why K through 12 is really the key for all of that. But to today's conversation, I am thrilled to welcome a good friend and a partner of Ohio X to today's show, Marvin Logan Jr. Marvin is the executive director of OWOW Center for Science and Technology. OWOW is based in downtown Youngstown and is an immersive collision between ideation, innovation, and imagination to provide youth with fun and engaging educational experience in the world of science, technology, engineering, and math. They house a center that features over 20 exhibits that utilize challenge-based learning to explore the world of STEM. Oh Wow takes their experience also on the road across Mahoning Valley and beyond, featuring unique in-school and after-school programming. Marvin, as the executive director, leads their entire team there. He's a skilled, adaptable, and experienced servant leader trained in community-based learning. And he possesses, this is why I love it, social entrepreneurship mindset to elevate communities through educational, social, and innovative programming. But Marvin, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us, and I'm really thrilled to dig into our conversation today.
Absolutely, Chris. I'm always excited when we get the chance to get together. Love talking about this stuff. Love talking about the Silicon Heartland and Ohio being on the move. So Ready to dig right in.
Cool. Well, I'm going to start with actually a little anecdote about you and how you and I met, and just what you have done and how you've hopefully utilized Ohio X in your work. We get people, as you know, and you've seen it because you come to all of our stuff, and OWOW's an Ohio X member. But we get people all the time ask, hey, how can I get involved? How can I get involved? Like, how can I participate in like this movement, which is bigger than Ohio X? It's this whole Silicon Heartland movement. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marvin, but you and I met, I believe, the first time at the first Ohio Tech Summit in Cleveland at John Carroll University in April of 2022.
Correct.
I think that's the year. Yeah, all these years kind of run together.
Yeah.
But you just came and you showed up and you're enthusiastic, and we had a conversation, which was follow-up conversations. And I'm Columbus, you're Youngstown. We don't live that close. When we get together, one of us is driving like 3 hours sometimes. So it doesn't happen that often, but that's what we do. But you have just dove into our work, and I hope through things like this, we can really showcase your leadership. But I just want to say thank you, because again, we get all these people, but you're like the perfect example where you showed up to one thing, you're enthusiastic, and you kind of just dove into this stuff that you're already doing, and hopefully leveraging Ohio X and our statewide community to really celebrate and promote and grow what you're doing in Youngstown at your specific organization. So it's an anecdote, but really I just wanted to start off by saying thank you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Ohio X has been a really great partner of ours. I remember that first summit and thinking, what are people like they're going to be? Is everybody going to be on the same page? I think one of the things that was really rewarding was that, was able to really go and test some theories that we had as an organization. Are these things the right direction? Are we able to, really play in this space? And every time I go to an Ohio X event, I walk away with a new relationship, new ideas, new thoughts. Started bringing the team along to a lot of different things, because it turned into, I would go and be in Ohio X spaces with a bunch of movers and shakers, and we would have these, great ideas. And then I essentially had to try to boil the ocean and bring back all of that to the team. And so, I'm grateful for Ohio X. I'm grateful for you, grateful for our friendship and relationship. And it's something that is really critical for Ohio to be able to get to where it needs to go. And that rocket is taking off fast.
Yeah.
And I think, we have an opportunity to build something nice.
We do. And our organization, it's unique in a way because it's not just tech companies, and it's not tech companies of a certain size. So we work with everything and have members from startups to Fortune 50 companies and everything in between. But we also have universities, we have research centers, we have hospital systems, we have nonprofit organizations like yours. Cities, we have partners in K through. I mean, it's just, and that's what, and I think we'll dive into this, but if we think about the Silicon Heartland opportunity, that's what it is. It takes all of it. It takes government, it takes industry, it takes business, it takes education, it takes the civic nonprofit sector. Because, not to bury the lead, but if we don't have the people to do it, the talented workers with the expertise, we're not going to realize all of this. And that's kind of, where you, shine, and that's the work you do. But that tech talent pipeline is just one example. It takes it all. And
Mhm.
that's what's neat. But then to your point, boiling the ocean, that's my toughest thing with all these ideas floating around in my head. How do you kind of keep it, on what actually works, and execute on like what you can control, but then building the right partnerships, which you've done really good job at.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're well on our way. I agree wholeheartedly. We've got a generational opportunity with Ohio, and Ohio X is helping lead the way to get us on the right path.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that tech talent pipe, because again, talent is such a thing. We see headlines, unemployment rates are going down. Tech is interesting, where there's, been these ebbs and flows. And since we've done this, uh, Ohio X, we started just before COVID. So we went through that, where there were unfortunately layoffs, but then a bunch of hiring, and then everyone's trying to figure out what it is. But talent is the one, or the number one B point that every company cares about. From your perspective, you work really in the K through 12 space with students across Mahoning Valley and beyond. Um, why is that such a key piece to this equation versus just thinking about computer science grads at four-year colleges, or just reskilling or just upskilling?
I think there are so many entryways into the tech, manufacturing, innovation, and design workforce, particularly the ecosystem that Ohio is building. And the entry points look really varied and diverse. You'll get folks that can come right in straight out of high school, people who will be coming from a 2 or 4 year program, or folks that are already in the workforce and thinking, hey, I've got some transferable skills
Mhm.
that can lend themselves to what's being done here. And I think the reason why it's so critical and so important, you look at it in terms of timelines. We have what I would say like a 2 or 3 to 5 year window where we want our workforce to be in one place. We have a 10-year window, and then it's what does life look like after that. And really, the most important, in my opinion, and I'm biased, of course, but the most important group of people that we're talking about that's going to take Ohio to the next level, uh, they're probably sucking on juice boxes in middle school, or even elementary school right
Yeah.
now. Those are going to be the folks that have the opportunity to really take our workforce to the next level. And another reason why it's so pivotal to focus on the entire K-12 spectrum when it comes to this workforce, um, creativity, problem solving, ideation. That's not just something to do, really. It's a way of life, it's a culture.
Mhm.
And it's something where almost like learning a foreign language. The earlier that you start, the better results that you can produce, and the
Mhm.
more ideas that they'll be able to come up with by the time they're entering that workforce. And so that's why it's so critical to really look at it from that perspective, and think how can we uh, essentially the state that we're building is going to be for primarily for these young people that are going to get the opportunity to spend the most time in the environment that we're creating.
Yeah, and I also think, I think it's also, and not for the lack of effort by groups like yourself, or schools, but I think it's also the most underserved, like, focused, of, because it's the toughest in a way, because you're working with potentially every student. So like, if there's 1,000 students at a middle school, that's a thousand potential technology pros, and that's a lot, and it's also so long. So I get from the company side, where if they aren't ready to join the workforce tomorrow or in a year, then companies, they don't have the time necessarily for that. Especially, bigger companies, they might have like philanthropic arms or kind of education arms that do that. Um, but if you're a startup, for instance, you don't have, you can't build a strategy around a 10 or 15, which makes, I think ours and yours and a lot of others' job that much more important, because individual companies aren't able to tackle it like they are if they just go to a career fair at a university, and it's kind of ready-made talent there, and you pick and choose or make offers to who you want. But I think in a way it's the most underserved, which makes it in a lot of ways the most important, because that's the biggest pool. And if we just wait for a student to go to Youngstown State University or the University of Akron or Ohio State and get a computer science degree, we're gonna have lost a lot of them, because
Yeah.
I was never into computers or coding as a kid. That was something that I found interest in later.
Mhm. Definitely, and the reason why I think it's no fault to a lot of
Yeah.
these family-owned businesses, small businesses. Hey, they've got a solution, they've got a problem that they need a solution for, like right now.
Yep.
And I mean, even you start to see that in hiring trends right now, where they may be looking for senior level employees versus a junior, someone who's straight out of college getting into the workforce, because they have something that's going to have to ramp up pretty quickly. But what the opportunity is for entities such as that is to be able to link up with organizations like organizations like Ohio X, and be able to say, hey, there's a group of people here who have a level of expertise in an area that you have interest in, that can help solve a problem for you. And we can provide opportunities to add capacity for those kinds of organizations, being able to take real business cases, solutions, being able to work with high school students or college age students to solve some problem. I mean, that's literally what internships are
Yeah.
built upon. And so there are ways and opportunities to engage different parts of the community to be able to get that long term investment for their business, to where they're solving their problems today, but they're participating with organizations like Ohio X to be able to solve the problems of tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And the other, what I like about your work and story is, we have somewhat of a similar background, where you're from the Youngstown area, I'm from the Akron area, and those are two Ohio cities that historically have gone through tough times with industry
Hmm.
leaving, um, and that's not a recipe for keeping young people around, because they're gonna go and leave for the opportunity. And admittedly, I left the state and came back to the state because I wanted to be closer to family. But you have a lot of passion for Youngstown, and being part of a new crop of leaders and executives that are kind of trying to work on that and create opportunity. And I think, to your point, it also starts in that K through 12 space, because if we're not sharing and showcasing those opportunities, then that's just they're set down a path for just, hey, I'm going to leave, and I'm not going to come back at some point.
Absolutely, and that has created a really interesting situation for people like you and I, boomerangs.
Yeah.
Opportunities for folks
Yep.
that left Ohio and then start to see, man, some really cool stuff is going
Yeah.
on there. I wonder if I can make an opportunity for myself. And I think that's what was attractive to a lot of the newer companies that we see that are entering the state, entering the space. And we are starting to see groups of young people being able to move back home. I mean, the pandemic created, a different kind of work environment for people to be able to thrive in. And that's a part of the equation of solving Ohio's talent gap as well. How many of those folks can we get to come back? I mean, there's no place like Ohio. There's no place like home. There are a few places in the country that you can go OH and know that somebody is going to respond, or when Hang On Sloopy comes on and everybody
Yep.
gets excited, that's home. And so being able to utilize that as your strategic advantage is another play in Ohio's playbook, and how we sort of solve these gaps and solve these issues and engage our forever Ohioans in a different way.
Yeah, and shifting a bit to those students, uh, I have to also imagine, whether you're, a teacher and educator, or someone, like at OWOW, that is working with students in more of an after school. Although I know there's a lot of education and hitting the road, as I mentioned in the intro. Uh, it has to be more difficult than ever in some ways, with just the competition for attention.
Mhm.
From cell phones to video games to streaming and TikTok and social media. Whereas when we were kids, you sat captivated in a classroom, and you really didn't have a cell phone, and then maybe they started to get introduced at some point for just high schoolers that were driving, and then it's slowly inched their way down. But what is that like today? And if this is a technology company that is starting to care about maybe, getting involved with a local nonprofit like yours or local school districts, um, how should we be smart about attracting interest in technology for students today?
It's a combination of things. One, it's being able to leverage and utilize business advisory committees or councils that school districts have, where some of these companies have the opportunity to come in and play in that space. It's being able to find some of the most basic parts of technology and exposing students to it and realizing, hey, this is something that I may be able to have a future in. It makes me think about our Ohio Tech Day last year, where
Hmm.
we had over 100 student athletes come in, and it probably 30 minutes into the program, they actually realized, oh, I'm coding something.
Yeah.
Because we didn't tell them that that's what they were doing.
Right.
They were just,
Got to trick them.
yeah. And being able to see how technology connects to our everyday life,
Hmm.
and being able to boil it down to simple things, and then use opportunities to tune into the things that they love.
Yeah.
We here at Oh Wow love gamification, and students love games, and so finding ways to, I mean, that's our whole secret sauce, is finding a fun way to do something, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I'm learning.
Yeah.
I think those are all opportunities to get young people as a part of the mix. But the most important piece of the equation for me is always that parent or adult that's in a student's life. It may be an older sibling, an older cousin, a
Hmm.
coach, or one of those things. But whenever you have informational sessions where folks can learn about different things that different organizations are doing, bring that adult along. Being
Yeah.
able to get that endorsement and having that support system, it really helps. And so those are just easy ways to get into it. But I
Yeah.
also think um, continuing to come to spaces for companies, being able to come to spaces where there are a bunch of different people at the table: government leadership, educational leadership, business leadership, university, college. If we can continue to get all those folks in the same room, I mean, we see it almost like, once a month with Ohio X. Being able to get all those people in the room starts to create solutions and solve problems,
Yeah.
and gets people perspectives that they don't normally have on how they can play a part.
Yeah, I love that, and I liked how you mentioned you brought in the student athletes, and it made me think of our health tech summit, which we just had with our partners, University Hospital Ventures, and you're very familiar with them and their work, and John Carroll as well. But we had as our keynote the head physician for the Cleveland Browns, and his keynote was in part around the data and analytics of sports and injury, and so it's in some ways it's like meeting, because there is so much that can be so complicated, but it's meeting students at their interest level. And so if it's a
Mhm.
bunch of student athletes, how do we design stuff around the data and analytics side of sports? And hey, did you know this? And I love those AWS commercials that will soon be seen on, I'm guessing this fall on TV, because they're always on during the NFL breaks. But the
Mhm.
AWS powered analytics that help coaches in the booth with statistics and what play to run. But I'm getting off on a tangent because I like this stuff as I'm wearing my Whoop. But it's meeting students where they have interest, because tech
Mhm.
is everything. So use that to our advantage, where hey, if they're an athlete, show them about things like Whoop, show them about data and analytics that help them be more competitive. If they, enjoy something else, they think they might want to be a nurse. Again, our friends at John Carroll, they're doing a whole nursing thing with a bunch of innovation and high tech stuff for nurses to help them be the best patient care providers possible. So I don't know, I'm just getting off on a tangent there, but I do love it of using those examples. And again, you guys did a fantastic one last fall, which was so cool to see.
Yeah. It's always, um, no matter who it is in the conversation, you meet them where they are.
Yeah.
You find common ground. You find a way to, um, say something in their language, or in their frame of thinking that they're
Yeah.
going to understand, and then you just go from there.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of technology. That's the beauty of science. That's the beauty of education. Really,
Yep.
you can always serve those where they are, and build a foundation and go from there.
For sure. And, likewise, it's maybe a bit makes it easier for tech versus if you're, if you're trying to get more students to become dentists, it's a very one, they can see it. So that helps, right? Like, you go to the dentist, you know what they do kind of. But if you don't want to be a dentist, then you kind of lost them right there.
Right.
But, tech, it touches everything. So let's use that to our advantage and recruit some more smart kids into this space. So, Marvin, we're going to start wrapping up. We like to ask all of our guests some kind of fun, quick questions at the end, just to get different perspectives from, executives in Youngstown to venture capitalists to CIOs to CEOs to university professors or researchers. So we'll start this. Say you're inviting Ohio X, a member, to Youngstown or the Mahoning Valley for a day. Where are you taking them to a meal? What's the go-to spot for something like that?
Man, you're gonna get me into trouble as a Trumbull County resident who works in Mahoning County.
Yeah, that's why I've been phrasing it Youngstown.
I think okay, let's do it this way. If I'm going to take them for 3 meals throughout the day, we're going to start at the original Mocha House in Warren. Fantastic food, fantastic cheesecakes, fantastic artisan coffees. A really great place to be able to take them. Then we are going to come over. We're going to go to Avalon Downtown Pizza for lunch in downtown Youngstown. Fantastic crew there, great food, great sauce. And then we're going to cross the line one more time, come back over to Trumbull County and go to Station Square for dinner. It's the place. Actors, athletes, musicians, all kinds of people come through there. The chef is great. Anytime you come in for a big meal with a big group of people, it's like a movie. The way they just come in and bring in all kinds of different stuff. So that's where I'm going to take people to grab bites to eat. If anybody feels like they should have been mentioned, I'm sorry. I apologize. Reach out to me. We'll get something going.
Yeah, we'll get you out there and, a little start. But yeah, I love asking that question because there's always a good gym somewhere in Ohio that I haven't been to. And so got 3 new ones to add.
No shortage of good food here.
No, not at all. Next one is, what's a favorite book, podcast, or show? So a read, a listen, or a watch. And I always share it can be something new, that you're just getting into, maybe to unplug at the end of the day, or something that you look back to once a year for work to help keep you on top of your game.
So 48 Laws of Power is something that I always revisit and reread, especially as I've transitioned through leadership throughout my career. Mm-hmm. It's always great to revisit those things to get a different understanding and a different perspective on what you've been able to learn as a leader. And then kind of an out of the box one, Dean Greno will love this. The Sopranos is a great show to watch when you're thinking about the successes and failures of leadership. Mm-hmm. And Tony Soprano and how he evolves as a leader throughout the show. Tony makes a lot of bad decisions. By the end of the show, he's pretty much an irredeemable character. But there are these inflection points where he has to make a decision, and he talks through his decisions when he meets with Dr. Melfi. And it's a great show to analyze for people to kind of sit down and binge watch and rewatch and think about it time and time again.
Okay. That's a good answer that I was not expecting, nor have we gotten, but that's why we ask it, right? Is that you learn something new. But Marvin, thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing some of the message. I know we have much more to come together and building some cool things coming up. Really grateful for that. Grateful for you and showing up and coming to a conference in Cleveland on a Saturday last year. And kind of really kicking off a lot of cool stuff. But thanks for all you're doing and making it all possible. And you're one of the ones that Ohio we're lucky to have. I know
Thank you.
Could be lots of places, but you're building some cool stuff in the area of Ohio that you grew up in. And as a Akron guy, I love to hear that. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Chris. Can't wait to see what we do next.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. And if you're listening, we'll put Marvin's LinkedIn and OWOW's website in the show notes. That way you can connect with him, follow along, check out what they're doing. If you care to support this type of work, they are a nonprofit organization. So check that out. If you happen to be in the Mahoning, Northeastern Ohio region, stop in at some point, check out their open hours. I've gotten a chance to tour and visit with Marvin in Youngstown Really cool spot. And especially if you have kids, stop on in. But appreciate everyone listening and watching. We'll all talk to you soon, but have a good day. Until next time. Bye-bye.